More Villa players look to be on their way out. Aston Villa once again linked with another top young prospect from across Europe. And could there be a shock swap deal on the cards? This is your Aston Villa transfer talk late. Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with another Transfer Talk Rumour Roundup special. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Help us continue on the road to 6,000 subscribers. We are on a mission to hit that number before the season starts. So you can help us get there by liking, subscribing, and get your comments and your thoughts on the transfer activity surrounding Aston Villa, or should I say, potentially the lack of transfer activity surrounding Aston Villa, and is that a sign of things to come? And how do you feel about us in this way potentially making a major signing, or will we make a major signing? I don't know as it stands right now, and I don't know how I feel about that, and I'd be interested to know how you feel about that. We might even talk about that in a fans forum special coming up. But talks of outgoings. Kosta Nedeljkovic is on his way back to RB Leipzig on a season-long loan this time. There was the option to sign him for around 9 million euros. That was set up just after the season finished, but Leipzig decided against that for now and wanted to renegotiate and thought that a season-long loan would be the better option for them. So that's happened. Could be good for Villa in the fact that he gets another season to prove his worth, to get more experience and potentially increase his price and increase his value. In which case, Leipzig, I'm sure, have got the option to sign him first, but could he then attract interest from other clubs, but also, maybe potentially force his way into the reckoning at Aston Villa? It doesn't look like that's the case, but it could well be, and it gives us an extra season probably to play around with. And wages, obviously, I'm sure they'll be covering a part of that. Not that his wages are too high anyway, but I think probably a deal that suits all parties. And then Enzo Barrenechea. What is going to happen with Enzo? He was told that Unai Emery was going to take a look at him in pre-season. That doesn't seem to be the case, because apparently Benfica have now made a 12 million euro bid for the player. Porto apparently interested as well. And they see him as Benfica see him as a replacement to one or two players that have left their club. And Nico Gonzalez, who went to Manchester City, and another player who is playing for them. His name escapes me, but he's looking at moving on, and Barrenechea potentially comes in to replace. Now, this has caused a little bit of debate on X or Twitter, and Aston Villa supporters kind of a little bit puzzled. And I think sometimes a player's reputation can be enhanced by the fact that when they're not with Aston Villa. And we haven't really seen much of Enzo. He played well in pre-season in those appearances that he had, and I think people were quite encouraged as to the standard of him and how well he potentially could do. And then I think because he had a good season at Valencia, I think people maybe thought that he could and should be given an opportunity at Aston Villa. That being said, you look at the players in ahead of him at the moment. Yuri Tillemans, Boubacar Kamara, Amadou Onana, Ross Barkley, even John McGinn, who can play in that midfield as well. Even Lamar Bohada, who's kept himself in and around the first team picture. You've got a lot of names to get ahead of. And would he be able to command a first team spot? Would he be able to command a regular first team spot? And is he actually good enough to do that? That is what we have to ask ourselves as well. Now, he has forced himself into Argentina reckoning with the full squad. So there has to be some ability and has to be a player there. But is 12 million euros too good of a deal to sniff at? And I think that's probably the case that Monchi and Unai Emery ultimately are weighing up. So I'm a little bit sort of on the fence with this one. I don't know if it's a good deal. I don't know if it's a bad deal. I just think that we have to get used to this situation where there are going to be players that will come in and out of the club at Aston Villa and not really feature for the first team. And yes, we will say all these superlatives and there'll be all this kind of fanfare when they sign, but ultimately they'll be used as sort of make weights or or ability to do transfer deals that are going to bring in profit or help with the cash flow for the club. And that is the reality that we're in right now. Young players will come in and go. We'll produce players through our academy that will sell off without them really having any opportunity for the first team. And we'll sign players from across Europe that won't even get into anywhere near the first team. We'll maybe play in pre-season. We'll maybe go out on loan for a couple of seasons, and then we'll sell them for profit. And that is the fact of the matter. So I'm a little bit nonplussed about it, to be honest. I think if we can get good money for him, fair enough. If he comes in and he does well in the first team and shows what he can do, then I'm happy with that as well. But it doesn't look like that is going to be the case. But you guys let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you feel it's a waste of a player? Do you feel like, or do you feel like this is the reality that we're living in? Do you feel that Barrenechea would have been in and around the first team if he was, in fact, good enough? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, it looks like we are interested in 18 or 19-year-old defender JD Canvo of Toulouse. And he it looks like he's around about a £17 million transfer fee, 20 million euros. Everton as well interested in him and has been targeted by several Premier League clubs. He enjoyed a breakthrough campaign in Ligue 1 last season and said to be, as I said, a value around about 20 million euros. And we look like we are very, very interested in signing him. If I take a look at the SofaScore ratings for him, and yeah, as I said, broke into the first team last season. This fits the profile of players that Aston Villa see and look at in terms of what they can do with them. Can they polish these rough diamonds into proper players? And that's the sort of model that we're going for. It says here he plays centre back, but if we look central midfield, but if we look at his stats, it looks more like a right-sided defensive role. But some heat across the other areas of the pitch. So probably used in different positions to maybe cover or make appearances across the back line, as a lot of young players do in terms of their versatility. 18 appearances, 12 starts, didn't score any goals, didn't provide any assists, did create one big chance in terms of his accuracy. You know, you're looking at 87%, 90% in his own half, 81% in the opposition half, 45% in terms of long balls and in terms of their accuracy. But interesting to know that a player of that age is confident to play those longer passes, because sometimes a lot of young players will just play the safe option. 2 clean sheets he was a part of, 1.3 tackles per game, 2.8 ball recoveries and 2.9 clearances. So baseline stats not bad at all. 51% in terms of total duels won, 49% ground duels, 53% aerial duels, and only 2 yellow cards. So look, anyone who's playing first team football, as I've said multiple times, is at age 18 has to have ability, and there has to be a player in there somewhere. Now, granted, as well as the French league has improved over the last few years, it's not the sort of physicality and the pace of the Premier League. Has many similarities to it, but it would be a big step up for him. But also it fits the profile of what Unai Emery likes. Ozcan has signed, multiple other younger players. We keep saying about Morgan Rogers being that rough diamond to come in and do well. So that fits the profile of what we're looking for. Now, will he come in and challenge for the first team? That is another question. Or will he come in and go out on loan? You kind of think if you're going to put down 20 million euros in this sort of situation that potentially Aston Villa are in right now, in terms of having to be a bit more frugal with their money or choosing to be this sort of pre-season, then you'd have to think that he would be potentially being lined up to play in the first team. So that would be an interesting one to look at. And anyone, let me know in the comments your thoughts on Canvo. Can you see it happening? Looks like it could be moving, but then there's Jan Bissek as well. So who knows what we're looking to do, but there could be something in the offing with that, I would assume. Now, finally, this one I think hit over the weekend and again caused quite a lot of stir on X and on social media. And it looks like Aston Villa are really interested in Semih Kiliçoy of Besiktas. He has been on the radar for a long time. Very, very highly rated player, represented Turkey from under 14s through to the full international level, and has scored 14 goals in 59 appearances since 2023 for Besiktas. Again, 19 years of age. Very 5'11", looks quite a stocky, quick sort of player. Plays in between the lines as well. but hasn't really featured too much in terms of starts this season for Besiktas. Maybe used as more of an impact player. And I don't know whether he's had a few injuries this season, but 32 appearances, 11 starts, and only 3 goals in the league this season. 4 big chances missed, 2 assists, and 7 big chances created. So maybe not as productive as he's wanted to have been. But in terms of dribbling, 57% successful dribble, 6.3 times possession lost. So likes to try things, likes to get in between, likes to beat players by the looks of this, and likes to dribble and take on. So could be a player maybe in the mold of a Emmy Buendia type player, likes to get in between the spaces and can finish as well. But it's said that Unai Emery really likes this player. Now, the word is, or the rumour was across the weekend, that Donyell Malen could be used as the swap because Besiktas really like Malen and have targeted that signing. Now, this has caused a lot of debate on X because I think Aston Villa supporters feel that Malen has been served a bit of an injustice. Obviously signed for Aston Villa on a 3-year or 3.5-year contract. Then there was a couple of situations that happened in the January transfer window that meant that we had to sign an additional player on loan, and that was Axel Disasi. And because of the injuries that we faced, that meant that we couldn't name Donyell Malen and Andre Garcia in the Champions League squad. So Malen, that was a really difficult conversation, I'm sure, that Unai Emery faced. And to be honest, probably wasn't a good situation for Malen because he probably signed on the proviso that he would be playing Champions League football. So that was a difficult one for him to face up. So that set up, I think, Villa supporters to think it was a bit of an injustice. Then he was kind of underused, I think, in the Premier League. And when he did play and come on, he made an impact, scored against Nottingham Forest, scored against Preston, scored against Brighton, and scored against Southampton. So he's got that sort of finishing ability and that sort of bullish power. And I think Aston Villa supporters feel quite excited for what he potentially could bring next season. That being said, again, maybe it's the stuff, maybe that it's that player reputation enhancing when they're not used. Has Unai Emery seen enough in him? Has he seen something that maybe thinks, do you know what? He's not quite the player that I thought he was going to be. And I could maybe see more potential in kiliçoy, and I would be prepared to potentially listen to a deal that could be done. Now, I personally don't think this happens. I don't see why we couldn't go after signing kiliçoy and keeping Donyell Malen. I personally feel like Donyell Malen can have a big impact. I look at the type of player that he is, and I feel like he is really suited to Premier League football and then suited to European football to have a big impact potentially as a substitute as well. So I don't think that will happen. But could I see it happening? Absolutely, I could see it happening. I, again, have said I don't think any player is off limits for anyone at Aston Villa in terms of transfers. So I could see it happening, and I could see that wheeler dealing mentality happening. But that was, I guess, just a bit of a justification as to why I think Aston Villa fans were really disappointed to probably see Malen's name in there, because I think they really want him to do well. They feel like there's been a bit of an injustice and want him to really get his chance this coming season, to make a big impact. And are pretty confident that he can do that, despite, I think, limited game time and limited evidence still to suggest that he will. So let's wait and see on that one. But I'm interested to see what you guys will say in the comments about the potential swap deal, kiliçoy for Malen. That'll be it for me tonight. Thank you for watching. We will be back on Tuesday night for the Fans Forum. I believe that the home kit is announced on Tuesday, the 15th of July as well. So I'll be interested to see what that looks like and who's going to be. Will it smash all sales of the kit? Be interested to see that. So we'll talk all things kit. We'll talk all things pre-season, with the first friendly starting on Wednesday against Walsall. And we will potentially look to do a watch along. We'll certainly do a bit of a reaction as well. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel, hit the like button and hit that subscribe button. We are closer and closer to that big 6,000 subscriber number. So we want to get there before the start of the season. Thank you all for watching. And as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.